Hey guys, it's Trail over to Go Hunt, and we're creeping up on another application deadline, which is coming up for the great state of Wyoming, and we're talking mule deer and antelope. We wanted to do a quick video where we touch on the most commonly asked questions and let you know the information that you need to know to apply and potentially draw a permit for either deer or antelope in the state of Wyoming this year. So one of the most commonly asked questions we get is, what's the deadline? When does that start? So it's actually open now. You can apply in Wyoming. The deadline for non-residents and residents is going to be May 31st at 11:59 p.m. So you got pretty much till the end of May to put your application strategy together and get your application in for antelope and deer. The next most commonly asked question we get is about the draw system for Wyoming deer and antelope. So the draw system is different for residents and non-residents. For residents, the system is completely random. There's no points associated with it. Applicants simply apply, and you hope you get lucky in the draw, and that's for residents. For non-residents, it is a preference point hybrid draw system. So 75% of the permits allocated are going to be allocated to people with the most preference points that apply for any given hunt. The other 25% are going to be randomly allocated. So that means that if you apply for a hunt that has at least 4 permits, the potential is that you could draw a random permit in the draw. So there is always an incentive to apply in the chance that you could draw a random permit in the state of Wyoming. The permit split overall between residents and non-residents is going to be 80-20. So 80% of the permits are going to be allocated to residents, 20% are going to be allocated to non-residents. So you do want to be aware of that. Wyoming is pretty generous in terms of allocating permits to non-residents for deer and antelope. So you want to be aware of that. One of the most commonly asked questions we get beyond that is about the regular draw and the special draw. So Wyoming has 2 different pools, if you will, of permits that are allocated to non-residents, and you can apply either in the special or the regular draw. The only difference between those 2 pools of permits when you apply is the cost of the license. So the cost of the special permit is going to be significantly more expensive to apply for than the regular permit. And the reason they do that is to give people the option to apply for a more expensive permit in that special draw in exchange for potentially better odds. It's not always the case for the really highly sought after units and hunts where those odds are significantly better in the special permit. But in a lot of cases over the years, for antelope specifically, maybe even some of the general region deer units, you do have better odds going into that special draw. You just have to decide if it's worth ponying up the extra cash to then apply and go into that special draw. So you need to make that consideration before you apply. You definitely want to look at odds and consider the number of points you have and then the cost before you apply. The next most commonly asked question we get is, how many choices do you get when you apply? So when you apply, you're going to get up to 3 choices. And Wyoming is a state that considers every applicant's first choice before moving to any applicant's second or third choice. So that means, in essence, to draw a hunt as a second or third choice, there has to be surplus permits after every applicant's first choice is considered. In the past, there has been opportunities to draw permits as either a second or third choice, and that allows you to essentially draw a permit and then still get a preference point for that year and retain the number of preference points that you have. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I'm going to talk a little bit about that towards the end of this video this year due to some tag cuts, but like I said, you get 3 choices. They consider every applicant's first choice before moving to any applicant's second and third choice subsequently. Another question we get asked pretty often is about group applications and how does that work in Wyoming. So in Wyoming, a group of 6 individuals can apply as a group for deer and antelope. Non-residents and residents cannot apply together, so it does have to be either a group of residents or a group of non-residents. A commonly asked question we get is, how do they handle the points in that draw system for group applicants? What they're going to do is they're going to take the number of preference points for the group and they're going to average those out to the 4th decimal point. And that application is going to go in with that exact number, like I said, out to the 4th decimal point. So somebody with a group application that comes out to 4.3333 is going to have advantage over a group applicant that maybe their percentage comes out to 4.25. So you want to be aware of that. They do average those, and it goes into the draw with that exact number out to the 4th decimal point. Wyoming is also a state that does not penalize group applications in the way they allocate permits. They will actually over-allocate their quota to cover a group application. So specifically what I'm saying is, if you're in a group application, let's say there's a group of 3 and you were the last group to draw and there's only 1 permit remaining, they will actually over-allocate their quota, so they would give all 3 applicants on that group application a permit or a tag and allow that group to go hunting. So there really is no penalty in terms of draw odds for applying as a group in Wyoming. The next most commonly asked question we get is about types. So Wyoming lists their hunts in types. The most common ones are going to be a type 1, a type 2, a type 9, a type 0, and those are different in terms of what types of hunts they are. So a type 1, a type 2 are going to be rifle hunts. The type 2 differs from the type 1 typically by the season within that unit or potentially the portion of the unit that you could hunt. So you want to be aware of that when you're looking at it. We break that all down within Filtering 2.0 and the individual unit profiles. Type 9 is going to be an archery only permit, and there's very, very few opportunities. In fact, I think there's only one in Wyoming that is a true type 9 archery only hunt. Type 0 is going to be a muzzleloader hunt, and again, that is muzzleloader specific for that season and that hunt and the unit that you draw. The type 6 and type 7 are doe and fawn permits, and those draws are reduced price draws, the type 6, type 7s. You want to be aware that you can actually apply for both the full price draw and the reduced price draw. The reduced price draw for those fawn doe permits is actually completely random. There's no points associated with that draw. When you apply, you'll actually see that there's 2 different sections, either full price draw or reduced price draw. But like I said, type 6, type 7s, those are going to be your fawn and doe within that reduced price draw. The other type that isn't commonly talked about, but you might want to look into, would be something like a type 3. Those are typically whitetail only. All this information is going to be available within your insider research platform, within the individual unit profiles, also within the upcoming application strategy articles. But like I said, those are going to be available within your research platform if you're an insider. Another commonly asked question is, do you have to front the cost of the license or buy a hunting license to apply in the state of Wyoming? You do not have to buy a hunting license to apply, but you do have to front the cost of the licenses that you apply for, plus you will pay an individual species application fee when you apply. The application fee is going to be $15 per species. So if you applied for deer and antelope, you're going to be into that $30 just in application fees to apply for those species. The cost of the special draw, like I said, which is that higher price draw for potentially better odds, for non-resident deer is going to be $662. The regular draw is going to be $374. For antelope, it's slightly less. The special draw is going to be $614, while the regular draw is going to be $326. So you do have to front those costs. As you can see, depending on what you apply for, you're going to have some room on your credit card. If you're unsuccessful in the draw, they're going to refund you to the card that you used when you applied. So you want to be aware of that. It's definitely a consideration. It's not overly expensive to apply in Wyoming, but you do have to have some room either on a debit or a credit card to then apply and hopefully draw. Another thing that I wanted to touch on are the seasons in Wyoming. So like I already noted, those type 1 and type 2 seasons are rifle seasons. But Wyoming is a great state in that they also offer you the opportunity to archery hunt in many of those units on those type 1 or type 2 tags. All you would need to do is check the regs to make sure that there's a special archery season within that unit that you drew, and then also buy the over-the-counter archery stamp. So the archery stamp for non-residents is going to be 72 bucks. Like I said, you want to look at the regs, you want to look at your insider account, but there is the opportunity to buy the over-the-counter archery stamp if you drew a type 1 or type 2 tag in most units. Go out and bow hunt. If you don't fill your permit, you can actually go back and then fill your tag on a rifle hunt, which is what you originally drew if you drew one of those type 1 or type 2 tags. Again, the muzzleloader type 0, that's specific. You can't do that. Archery type 9, like I said, that one unit's got a type 9 hunt. That is archery only. You can't go back and rifle hunt it if you don't fill your permit. So like I said, Wyoming is very generous. It's a long season. They give you the opportunity in most cases to hunt with a bow or a gun if you buy that archery stamp. It's something that I would highly suggest you look into. Most people that go out to Wyoming, whether they're residents or non-residents, are going to go during the rifle hunt if they drew that type 1 or type 2 tag. But if you are a bow hunter and you've got the days off and you can get out into the field, there's a lot less pressure and there's great opportunities to bow hunt antelope in Wyoming. The final couple things I wanted to touch on in this video are specific to this upcoming draw. We're going to break it down within the application strategy articles, but there are some pretty significant tag cuts across the state of Wyoming for deer and for antelope. They had a very severe winter, especially along the western edge, and then also through the southwest corner and even into central Wyoming. There's a lot of antelope that died. A lot of those herds aren't doing too great this year post this winter. So they have proposed a bunch of tag cuts. I'm going to break that down within the application strategy article. I'm going to pull out every individual unit, and I'm going to show you how many permits were available in 2022 versus how many are being proposed for 2023. The reason I'm noting that is because that does have the potential and it will significantly impact draw odds and point creep in the state of Wyoming. Wyoming is 17 years deep in a point system for antelope and deer. And with less permits this year, the point creep is probably going to be pretty severe. People ask us often, are you going to update your odds on your website based on the number of permits that are proposed to be allocated in 2023? And we will not update our odds. And that's because our odds are based on known data, which was from the previous year's draw. We cannot predict how many people are going to apply and for what units and with how many points. It would be impossible for us to predict. But I will tell you, as you look through the application strategy article, you look at the number of points you have, it would behoove you to look at the number of proposed permits that are being allocated for 2023 and compare that to the number of permits that were proposed last year or allocated last year, and try to help make yourself a projection on how many points or how the creep might be in 2023. I can't predict what the odds are going to be or how many people are going to apply, but I will tell you, if you dig in, you do some research, you can have a relatively decent idea on how bad the creep might be. So with that, like I said, look at the draw odds, look at the application strategy articles, look at those detailed draw odds page, compare the permit numbers year over year, and try to help yourself make the best possible guess for your application this year. Wyoming is a great state. I love Wyoming. They have phenomenal resources still, both in antelope and mule deer, and even some whitetail. You've got until May 31st to get your application in, so now's the time. Dig in, do the research, and plan on applying in Wyoming before the end of May. If you're not an insider, man, it is a heck of a tool to help you make an application strategy for Wyoming or any other state in the West. You can use the code TRAIL, that's just TRAIL, sign up for a GOHUNT Insider account. If you do that, you're going to get all that research available to you. We're also going to give you 50 points back in the GOHUNT Gear Shop. That's $50 that you can use towards the purchase of any gear that you want in the shop. So like I said, sign up for an account, or if you're already a member, do the research, apply in Wyoming before May 31st.